So now that you have your profile properly pimped, it's important to capitalize on that. The whole reason we use Instagram and we use our Instagram profiles is to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And although the Instagram profile will do 80% of the work for us, you have to capitalize on your profile, on all of the interests it's built by DMing, because it's not a done deal until you've secured a date and you're face to face right in front of each other, doing what dating is all about, which is connecting and getting to know each other and seeing if you're a great fit to move forward with in a relationship. And in these videos on the fundamentals of DMing, I'm going to be showing you a few frameworks, conversational frameworks that you can apply in any and every single one of your DM conversations so that you can have massive success. You'll never be stuck. You can always build massive attraction. You'll never run out of things to say. And all of your conversations will have purpose. You know exactly what to do at any time. So with all that being said, I want to talk about the most important conversational framework, and that is the IEC framework, which stands for interest, engagement, and comfort. If you've been inside any of our other courses or you've watched a lot of our videos on YouTube, you may have heard of this before. We talk about this extensively. We go super in depth. There's tons of videos on this inside the texting course, but I'm just mentioning it because if you've been inside our other courses, you've heard part of this before, but it's important to understand how this works in context of Instagram and in the DMs. But don't worry, we're going to cover every single thing you need to have massive success with Instagame and with your Instagram profile alone. So don't worry about that. The IEC method works by mirroring a successful in-person interaction. The only difference is that you're doing it over text. And the important thing to understand is that you're at one of the 3 stages of the IEC method in the relationship at all times. I want you to think about the stages you or a girl goes through when you are going from strangers to dating. At first, you capture each other's interest. You capture her interest. You say a witty opening line. You have a great first interaction. You make a great first impression. Then you follow it up with a few texts, a few DMs. Maybe you hang out a few more times. And this is the engagement stage. As you guys are engaging with each other, deepening the connection, getting to know each other a little bit more, you are at the engagement stage. And then finally, once you guys become more comfortable with each other, you have a great understanding of who the other person is. When there's enough trust and comfort in each other and in the relationship, you guys take the next step, whether that's to being intimate with one another or going on a full-blown date. The thing you need to understand is that unless you have interest, unless there's proper engagement, and unless there's comfort, a woman will never agree to go on a date with you. That's why in all of our DM conversations, we need to hit each one of these 3. And like I mentioned, you're at one of these 3 at any point in the relationship at all times. If you've never sent her a DM, you've only liked each other's photos, or you've never talked at all, you are at the interest phase. So you have to focus on getting her interest. If you guys have chatted once or twice and you're trying to build momentum, build attraction, you are at the engagement stage. You're replying to each other's stories, you're texting or DMing a little bit back and forth. And then once you start getting to know each other, moving past surface level conversations and building comfort, that is when you are at the comfort stage. Surprise, surprise. And the comfort stage is one of the most important stages because this is where she starts to feel secure and safe with you, safe enough and comfortable enough that she'll agree to going on a date with you. Because a girl's not going to sit in front of you for at least an hour, or at least commit to sitting in front of you for a bare minimum of an hour on a date, just the 2 of you, if she doesn't feel comfortable with you and she doesn't trust you. So each 3 of these are equally important, and we'll get into building each of these. The first is interest, because without a girl's interest, she will never give you the time of day. This is really simple, and it's the whole reason we're on Instagram to begin with. The whole point of using Instagram is so our profile builds the interest for us. We're hacking for the interest part. Our profile is our biggest asset. It's huge. It's the reason we're using Instagram in the first place. We want to get a head start. We want an advantage over every other guy who's talking to her, because if you're talking to a desirable woman, she's going to be desired by many other men. So you have to learn to stand out. Our profile does this for us. So if you're inside the Instagame course, you've set up your pictures, you've set up your profile, your captions are dialed in, you have captivating captions, your bio is killer, your photos follow the APP method so she sees every aspect of your personality. There's already tons of interest done for you. Now, the way you follow this up, if it's a girl that you don't really know, you haven't really talked to before, is you follow this up and you get her to look at your profile by using what's known as the admission. The admission is a type of message that falls into the interest category. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just you admitting or candidly saying what's on your mind. Here's an example. And this is actually one of the opening lines I use a lot when I see a girl's Instagram in her Tinder bio. I'll say, Not gonna lie, I saw you on Tinder and said fuck it and DM'd you. It's a perfect textbook example of the admission. I'm admitting, you know what? Yes, I might have stalked you here from Tinder, but hey, I did it and I decided I'm gonna DM you. She responds positively, and this is the benefit of the admission. When you're admitting something and you're being candid and honest, the girl can feel the authenticity behind it, which is why you have to be authentic in what you're admitting. Saying, hey, yep, I did just stalk you from Tinder to here. I'm owning it. Here I am. Let's chat. I'm here. The authenticity of the message and then the massive interest that your profile builds for you is a double fucking whammy, and you will get insane amounts of interest. Another way of using the admission is this. I said, I can't tell if you're short or tall because I was on the girl's profile. I'd never talked to her before. She came up on my Explore page. I was on her profile and I was looking, I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't tell if this girl is short or tall. So I just said that. That was the first thing that popped into my mind. The girl can tell when you're being honest and authentic. You don't come off as a tryhard. You don't come off as fake. And your bio does a lot of the talking for you. So this is why the admission is so good. It shows personality. It shows authenticity, and it gets to the point. It allows the girl to feel comfortable, and it allows her to respond in an easy way. She responds saying very, very short. I say, how short are we talking? She goes 5 foot. The conversation goes from there. This isn't a breakdown of the conversation. I just wanted to show you some examples of the admission in action, because once you use the admission and you're in a conversation, she's hit your profile, the interest is there because the profile is a big part of the reason why she responded. Then you're moving on to the engagement phase. And this is where most of the dating takes place, getting to know each other, attraction building, and this is where the momentum is established. And another big part of why the IEC method is important for the context of Instagram is because Instagram is the best way to create consistent and powerful engagement. You've heard Zeus say it plenty of times before. Building a girl's interest is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a staple of what Zeus teaches. You have to keep a girl's interest over time, over 2, 3, sometimes even 4 conversations before she's comfortable enough, which we'll get to next, to go on a date with you. A slick pickup line when you approach or when you slide in the DMs is not enough to keep her attention and her interest locked. You have to keep her interest locked over multiple interactions, multiple conversations. And this is what engagement is all about. Now, since I'm a business and marketing nerd, if you couldn't tell already, the idea of touch points is a concept of business that perfectly encapsulates what we're trying to do when it comes to engagement. Touch points is a business term that describes when a potential customer interacts with the business for information or services before buying the product. Now, an example of this is advertising. Every single ad you see for a company, the reason they have multiple ads is because they're trying to build touch points. They want you to see the company and see the product multiple times so that they build engagement with you. They build up your interest, and then they capitalize on that interest over multiple advertisements with their websites, with the content they sell you, and the stuff they put out. Now, how this applies in a dating context is super simple. Your messages and interactions with the girl, whether it's replying to a story, liking her photo, commenting on her photo, sending each other funny memes, all of these are touch points. You want to have a few touch points with her before you go and ask for the date, because it's super, super unlikely she'll agree to go on a date after one message conversation, unless your profile is dialed into the max and she has already decided that she's super into you. But this is pretty unlikely and doesn't happen very, very often. You still have to put in the work in the DMs in order to capitalize on that initial interest. The biggest way to build engagement in the most powerful way are through callback loops. These are the most effective form, and this is covered in painstaking detail in its own video on the soft closes and callback loops. We'll discuss engagement again there. Again, these are the general frameworks and the fundamentals of DMing, so I don't want to get too nitty gritty here, but just know that callback loops are the most effective form of engagement, and we're going to cover it intensely in the next video. Now, over the 2, 3, or 4 conversations you may have with the girl, usually around 2 or 3 before she's comfortable enough to go on a date with you, depending on how you do it, you're going to be building comfort throughout the entire time. Because the thing you need to understand, and the thing that most guys get wrong, is that status and value do not equal comfort. A woman needs to feel safe with you before investing into the relationship and taking things to the next step. If there's no comfort, there will be no date, no strong romantic interest, and no attraction. Because a woman can only feel intense attraction towards a man once she feels comfortable and safe. You have to be vulnerable, show her who you are, and bring her into your world. She has to know who you are as a man, what you're about, your sense of humor, what's important to you, what your life is all about. And our profile does a ton of the work for us, which is why we follow the APP method. And another big reason why the IEC method ties in so well and gets maximized, gets put together like peanut butter and jelly with Instagame because your profile does a lot of the comfort building for you. But you have to understand that although attraction, momentum, and flirting are all super, super important, what's even more important is how you use those things to start establishing comfort. And comfort is already built in a ton throughout the whole Instagame system because remember, comfort is building familiarity. It's the whole reason we're using Instagram in the first place. And I know I didn't cover comfort super in depth here. We're going to talk about it more in the video on callback loops and soft closes because soft closes do build tons of comfort. We're going to get into that in a later video. It's just important that you understand this 3-step method and understand that if you don't have the comfort build, if you haven't engaged the girl enough, and if you don't have her interest, you're never going to get her on a date with you. Now, a lot of this stuff is already built into your Instagram profile and into the Instagame system, but it's important to understand this framework and how it creates and drives your conversations forward because this is the purpose and the motivation for your conversations. Now, all of that being said, comfort is heavily baked into the Instagame system, which is why I didn't go super in detail here. We're going to go in detail on it in a future video when we talk about the soft closes and callback loops. This framework is just something you need to understand and keep in mind. A lot of it is baked into the Instagame system for you already, but you have to keep it consistent throughout your conversations because if you don't have this framework consistent throughout your conversations, it's going to be incongruent with everything your Instagram profile did. Your Instagram profile is building interest, engagement, and comfort. The nature of Instagram is doing all of these things for you, but you have to double down on it to really maximize it. If you really want to crush it, you have to double down on it in your DM conversations in order for them to stick, in order for the girl to feel that your profile and your conversations are congruent and they make sense to who you are as a person. And if you want to get the most out of Instagame, you have to follow this framework. Now, as a quick recap, remember, the IEC method is a framework for structuring your conversations. Anytime you're stuck or uncertain what to say or doing a conversation, think about what stage you're at. Now, if a girl isn't replying to your messages, you probably have to recapture her interest. If you guys have been talking a little bit, you're probably at the engagement stage and you need to do a better job of increasing momentum, building attraction, and then start building that comfort so that when it's time to ask for the date in the second or the third or the fourth conversation, she's ready, she says yes, and she's super, super excited about meeting you. Keep all of this in mind. It's important. A lot of it is already built into the Instagame system through your profile, but it's important to understand this because you have to reflect this in your conversations as well.